Hi everybody. Oh, I'm super dark. Hi everybody, it's Miss Rachel and welcome to Cap at Home. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Morse code bracelet. So let's hop over to the table so I can show you how to do it. So right here we have Morse code, and it's basically a series of dots and dashes that represents letters and numbers, and we're going to use these dots and dashes as beads to make messages in our jewelry. So this is my first example, and I'm going to show you how to read it. So first I started off by just writing my word on the top of this paper. So this one says hello, and then I wrote the letters along the side to help me just know which series of dots and dashes equals which letter. So I have dot, 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 dot for my H, just like on this chart here, and then one dot for E, dot, dash, dot, dot for L, dot, dash, dot, dot for the second L, and dash, dash, dash for O. These slashes right here, I added in because having all of these dots right next to each other makes it very difficult to know what is actually being said. So the slashes represents the end of a letter. So for this bracelet, which is on a red pipe cleaner, but you see these 4 red dots and then a yellow bead. That's my red, 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 yellow. So you'll know that the yellow is the end of one letter. So those 4 dots equal H. And then my next letter is just 1 dot, which is my red bead, and that is an E. And then you go over here to the first L, and I have red, black, red, red. That's dot, dash, dot, dot. And then yellow for the end of that letter. And then the same for this L. And then the last 3 beads are all dashes, so they're all black, and that represents O. So I have hello spelled out on here. So I thought this was a fun little way to kind of create patterns in your jewelry, but those patterns actually have a meaning. So doing this with just one word, and this is 5 letters, you can make a nice size bracelet. But if you wanted to do something like a phrase or something, you'll get something a lot longer and you could end up with an entire necklace. So this one here actually says, I think it goes this way. This one actually says the more traditional Detroit greeting, what up, doe? So it has, for my dots and my dashes, I decided that in this one, my dots would be orange and my dashes would be green. So we have orange, green, green to represent W, which is dot, dash, dash, and so on. And then in this one, I used more colors. Instead of just using one color for all of my spaces, I kind of switched it up, and there's multicolors, which I think really kind of hides my code a little bit better. So that's something that you might want to think of when you're deciding what you want to put in your necklace, bracelet, whatever you decide to make. Do you want to use just one color like we did in hello for the spaces between the letters? Or do you want to switch it up and make it look more festive and a little bit less like a code, which hides it a little more? So I think that's something interesting that we can do. And then I also wanted to note that in this example, since I have 3 different words, I used 2 slashes for the space in between the words. So when you come to a bead that's not orange or green, then you'll know that that's the end of a letter. And then when you come to 2 colors back to back that's not orange or green, you know that's the end of a word. So this can get really, really interesting in how you decide to code it. It's up to you. I think it's really cool, and it can be kind of secretive and fun, something you can do with your friends. So I am going to show you, just walk you through how to code your own bracelet or necklace. So you'll need some paper to write on, and you'll need something to write with. You don't have to have color pencils or markers or anything to create your code the way that I did here. I just thought that would help with the example, but you can do it just in one pen or pencil. You'll also need some string for your beads. you'll need beads to create your code. You will need, where did my scissors go? Scissors to cut your string if you have a ball of string, and you may need some tape to help your beads go onto your actual string. So I'm going to pull off a little tape and wrap it around the ends of my string so that I can get started here. Just to prep my string. You can do this without the tape, but the tape really does help, like a whole lot, especially if you're using yarn, which has a tendency to unravel. And now this tape is falling apart. So I'm going to put tape on both ends of this so that if I decide to use this end, I can, but if for some reason I decide to use this end, I can do that too. I have some options. So I'm just taping the ends and wrapping the tape around. And once I'm done with this, I will cut the tape off, so it doesn't need to be beautiful at all. It just needs to be functional. So I have my string prepped and I have my beads over here on the side. And I already wrote down a word that we are going to use. So for this example, we're going to code beautiful. So you'll start by just writing your word on the top of your paper and then breaking it down by letter. Just write the letters right down the side of the page. And if you need more space, I did 2 columns. Then after you have all of your letters, you'll go check out this chart, which I will add in the comments so that you can check it out. If you are, for some reason, you don't have access to this, you can always Google Morse code, which is M-O-R-S-E code chart, and then this will come up on Google. So let's get started with the B. The B is right here, and we see the dash and then 3 dots. So that's what I wrote here. My dash, my 3 dots, and then my slash because that's the end of this letter. Then our E is super simple. It's 1 dot. You can see that here on the chart. And then you do your slash to end that letter. Then you go to your next letter, A, so on and so forth, all the way until you get to your last letter, which is L. So once you have this in place, we're going to slide this out of the way. Another thing that's pretty helpful is to code your code. And these O's and R's and B's are my code for my colors. So if you don't have an orange or red marker nearby, you can just write O for orange or R for red or whatever color beads that you have. So I used orange and red because I have a lot of orange and red beads to create this pattern. So under all of my dashes, I have O's because all of my dashes are going to be the same color, which helps us with our code, and that color is going to be orange. So another thing you can do is put the color bead under your code, because that will keep everything in place for you while you're doing this and make the beading process a little faster. And it will help you keep things in order, because I did this a couple of times and I messed up and I had to take all of the beads off. So it helps to just take the time up front to put your beads in place, and then when you string them on your string, you won't have to take them apart. And you won't have to dig through your bunches of beads. You'll have everything in order. So just take your time, and if you have your word written out and the Morse code written out, and then even your colors, you can go ahead and start to put your beads in place on your paper. And then after you have them all lined up on your paper, you can put them on the string. And I took the time to, you might be thinking, well, if you're going to put the beads on there, then why even worry about writing the colors? You can easily just knock this over. That's something I do a lot. I knock things over and I have accidents. So if you have everything written out, even if this gets knocked over, you'll be okay. You won't have to start from the beginning with your coding. So Do what works for you, but I am giving you advice on what has worked for me. And this has been pretty effective. So, once you have your beads in place, like I almost have mine in place, you'll be able to start stringing them on your necklace. R means red, right? There we go. And 2 reds and a black. Alrighty. So, and remember from one of my examples, I didn't use the same color for all the spaces. I used random colors. So if you wanted to, you could substitute all the black ones for random colors that are not red or orange, because red or orange need to be consistent because they're a part of your code. And if you start mixing that up too much, then your code will be really, really difficult to decipher. So now that you have everything in place, you're going to want to make sure that you are working from the correct side. The good thing about this is you can flip it over either way. This way it's backwards, but this way it's forwards. So it doesn't really matter which side you start with, because you can always flip it over to read the correct way. But whatever side you start with, you want to continue going that way. So if you're going to start with the B, then make sure you do the B, then the E, A, U. But if you're going to start with the L, then make sure you're going backwards. L, U, F, I, and all of that. So I am going to start, this side looks kind of janky, so let's see if we can even get beads on here. I'm going to start with the B. There we go. And I'm just pulling them onto my string using my tape method. That's really, really helpful. Another thing that's helpful that I don't have an example of now, but if you don't have tape, if you have maybe a bobby pin and you can just kind of hook it on here, and then like the bobby pin kind of sticks out like that, and you can use the end of the bobby pin to slide your beads on. If you have those really, really tiny seed beads, which are like probably 10 times smaller than these, you might need to have a needle and thread. But you can do this with any kind of beads. These just show up better on camera, and I happen to have a lot available to me. So whatever you have available to you will work. And I know if you're anything like my niece and you just have a bazillion hair beads all over the house, you'll be able to do this with no problem. So we're finishing up our U, and now we're on to the T, which is just 1 dash. So this project is super simple. I think the most time you'll spend is actually coding out your message, which can be fun. You can do that with a friend, and you guys can exchange coded messages and jewelry, which is interesting. And if you're doing this along with me, make sure you take a picture of what you made. We would love to see what you made. You can model it, or you can just take a picture of it on the table. And I think it might be fun to take a picture, leave it in the comments, and then we'll try to guess what your message said by using the Morse Code Chart. So don't tell us what it says. We'll guess, and then you can tell us if we got it right or not. So I think that will be kind of interesting, some interactivity. All right, so we're almost done here. So as we're wrapping this up, if you need a little more clarification on something, if I wasn't clear about something, let us know that in the comments too. And I can clear everything up and try to help you out, because that's what I am here for. So now we have our very own necklace that actually says beautiful. But we didn't have to use any letter beads. We just created our own code, or we coded this with Morse code. So there you go. And since this is a necklace, I'm going to make sure this is long enough to go over my head, which this one might not be because I have a big head. So that's one thing you want to think about when you're cutting your string, how long it is and how much you'll need to go over your head. And then I'm going to take my 2 strings in my fingers, wrap them around 2 fingers, and then push the tails through the loop. There we go. So make sure you leave us a picture in the comments and we'll guess what your message is. And as always, make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube so you can see all of our videos and do a million crafts, because we have a lot of videos. So make sure you are checking us out and staying up to date. And also, with your pictures, if you have pictures of what you made, make sure you submit them, because you do have the opportunity to be a published artist. So make sure you're getting us those pictures if you can. Thank you so much for joining us today at Cap at Home. I'm Miss Rachel. Today we checked out some Morse code. We made jewelry. Have a great day. Bye.